I would assume that Brian just didn't have it ready, you know. I think probably we'd be having a different interview if Pet Sounds had Good Vibrations in it. I think there'd be 2 instead of 1 all-time albums. There'd be Sgt. Pepper and Pet Sounds. I mean, Pet Sounds, yes, great, wonderful. If we had included the version you heard, we all heard, in mono, I had to add mono, of Good Vibrations, be a different Beach Boys story. Well, you know, I got my info from Carl, because again, these 2 guys, Brian and Carl, really brothers on all levels. And he would just give us little progress reports, you know, and Brian would just, like a great filmmaker, you know, shoot a scene several different ways, edit it several different ways, and I'm just going to guess Brian wasn't ready. You know, it wasn't, you know, he probably wasn't thinking, well, we need this to drive the marketing of Pet Sounds. I don't think he was thinking of it that way. I think he was totally in pure, wonderful, once-in-a-lifetime artist mode, and it just didn't make the cut, and Sloop John B did. Don't think I'm down on Sloop John B. I just have to, you know, assume the label probably thought, you know, those are the days you had a lot of tracks in the albums of those days. You didn't have a 9-track album. And here's Sloop John B to drive whatever this album is. You know, maybe they weren't sure about Wouldn't It Be Nice in that album, or God only knows, who knew, but Sloop John B, that really sounded like a hit. You know, but Good Vibrations, probably Brian, even, I'm sure if he had it finished, and Capitol probably would have been so confused by it because it was so progressive, you know. But anyway, it wasn't. Oh, I heard so many versions of it. You know, some of them were too over the top. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. You know, have you watched the director's cut? It's been out for 7 or 8, 9 years of Apocalypse Now. Is that not the greatest? All 3.5 hours. You feel like you've only watched a movie for about 20 seconds. You know, and some of those scenes that they didn't put in the movie, wow, I'm so glad. You know, be fun to round up all the stuff that he had to pick from. And I will tell you that there was in somewhere in the boots, you know, the bootlegs and some of the albums, the bridge, gotta keep those loving good. There's hum-de-dum, this real active thing that Brian, it wasn't subtle enough, and Brian tossed it out, took Lyle Ritz, I forgot who played, Tommy Morgan probably played a harmonica, and there was a, you know, gotta keep those loving good vibrations, and Dennis Wilson, you know, Dennis Wilson's an underrated guy, awesome, great musician. Had Brian's upside down ear, which I love, with the inversions. He played organ on it. So those few people are towards the very end, right before we recorded it, Brian pared it way down to that. And then, you know where the song goes, "Whoop," at the end of that section? Well, we recorded the vocals at Columbia Records. It only took us a couple days to do the whole thing. The vocals took around 6 months. But I remember when you were a kid and you'd see on British television J. Arthur Rank and the gong. Did you ever remember that? Well, we had a gong in the studio at Columbia Records. And I convinced Brian we should put a gong on this, you know. And so I went, go out and play it. So I went out and played it at that part. And all of a sudden, I saw the whole studio went like that. It was so loud, and people running out the door. I'll never forget that. So we didn't use that. We didn't use that. He was born perfectionism, to tell you the truth. It's just the way it came out. You know, remember he had the wild boys, wild Indian boys. You know, us. He said that he had to keep in a corral. You know, I gotta go dinner. I'm gonna be carrying it. You know. Or something, you know, but I remember the hardest vocal, first of all, he thinks that we are rhythmically not up to his standard for California Girls. By the way, it just went into the Naris Hall of Fame, and he's probably right. The worst rhythm that we did, and we sang it at, we didn't sing it, I don't think we sang it at Columbia Records. We were using 8-track at Columbia, but I think we sang it at Western, and we were using 4-track. And then Brian had a Scully 4-track, and we went up to his house to sing it. We couldn't get the rhythm sung the way, as precisely as he wanted it. So we recorded that a lot. Many recordings of it. Not different recordings, just of us, if you had the outtakes, just trying to lock the rhythm in. But it worked. It kind of came out. I'm sure he still probably doesn't like it. Probably likes the song, probably thinks they could have sung it better. There's the rhythm, the tempo changes in the middle of Good Vibrations. I can make this short and sweet. I remember when I heard the final mix, I remember saying to the band, this is probably #1 or our career's over. It was do or die with that. And it was so radical, it could only be one of the two things.